Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's Board of Zoning meeting. If everyone, oh no, let's do, no, sorry, we're gonna do this. Let's do a roll call. Will you take us through it, please? Well,
Roll call. Dan Justice. Earl Bolander.
Here.
Amanda Jeschke.
here.
Rick Jacobs. Nathan Stradevin. Here.
All right, thank you. Will everyone please rise for the pledge?
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Next on the list is we have two sets of meeting minutes to approve. One is our standard meeting on October the 26th, and then the special meeting that we had following. Let's hold that for a second. Let's, do I have a motion to approve the meeting agenda for tonight?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Now let's go back to the meeting minutes. We have two sets here. Has the board had an opportunity to look over these, and are there any corrections or additions? All right, do I have a motion to approve? Let's do October 26th regular meeting first.
I'll make a motion to approve the October 26th BZA meeting minutes.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, let's go to the special meeting that was October the 30th. Have y'all had a chance to look over that? All right, I'm looking for a motion to approve these.
I will make a motion to approve the October 30 BZA meeting minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Let me get this sent down to Andy. All right, we have no old business, so we have 3 cases tonight to be heard for new business. The first one is case number variance 12/2023 at 625 West Broadway Street. Adam, can you take us through the presentation?
What I'd like to do first is ask Alex the question on item number 8.
Okay.
Regarding a quorum, so that if it does need to be continued, then
Okay.
we can determine that now. So Alex, the Rick Jacobs and Dan Justice obviously are not here tonight. And Nathan Sturdivant lives right next door to the property in question.
Okay.
And so he doesn't have a financial interest in the property. So I don't believe there'd be any issues with him voting for it or one way or the other if he's comfortable with that. But we wanted to seek your opinion on that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's any direct conflict, legal conflict because of the proximity or created by the proximity. There's certainly, we've had times where board members have felt that it's if anything, just the appearance of a potential conflict, and they've abstained. And if that's the case, then on the quorum issue, it's with only 3 of the members there tonight, everything needs to be unanimous to be a final action. Otherwise, it would be no action and would be continued until the next meeting when we'd have at least another member or hopefully 2 members where we could have a majority of the membership would constitute a vote of final action.
I have a question then, Alex. Is that, are you referring to all 3 cases would have to have a unanimous decision, or just this third one?
No, for anything tonight. So any final action by the BZA requires a simple majority of the membership, not just the membership in attendance. So with 3 of you there, all
Okay.
3 would need to be on board to have a final action, either thumbs up or thumbs down on any of the items tonight. And if we don't have that in any particular vote, either because someone abstains or because we've got a split vote, then by law, it would continue until the next meeting when we would have enough members there to break that tie.
All right, thank you. So,
So then, for item number 8, Nathan, is that something that you're comfortable voting on one way or the other, or do we want to just go ahead and continue that to the next meeting?
So it appears based, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say one other thing. I mean, with the proximity, especially being right next door, if I'm understanding you correctly, Adam, it certainly opens itself for an argument that whatever happens on your immediate neighbor's property can impact the value of your property.
Yeah,
Just
that's what
that,
Nathan was saying.
I mean, just
That's what we were curious about.
this is more of a common sense than a legal argument. And so my advice to the board, and I think it would, I'm not advising the petitioner, but I think it would make sense, is I like to avoid conflicts like that. If it's possible to avoid a conflict like that, just, leave those questions off the table. And so I think my advice with the immediate proximity or the adjacent nature of the property, my advice would be if we can, and if petitioner is willing to continue it until we have the other members present, I think that would be best course of action. But certainly from a legal perspective, there's nothing legally inappropriate as far as a legal conflict of interest that would prevent Nathan from voting.
The other option, like we unfortunately had to do the previous month, is we could set up a special meeting for that particular case to keep things moving along one way or the other
Sure.
and not having to wait another month.
Well, and I guess the additional, I fully understand what you're saying, Alex. The additional context is, it appears based on what I received, is that the variances in question were essentially, we're relitigating what was done at the area plan or area BZA. It was the plan commission at the time.
Right.
Variances were sought 4 or 5
Right.
years ago. Property didn't develop, so I think they still have to do that, but it doesn't appear to be any different than where we landed.
Correct.
So this is already, in essence, this would have, I suppose, had they developed this property, nothing would be different than what's being asked of tonight. And I was not on a voting, board at that time because it was the area BZA, or maybe it was just the Hancock County. But I guess we could toss it to the petitioner and just see. But I am a little hesitant to just with the proximity.
Okay.
And I
don't
would
have a lot
add
of-
that
I don't have issue, but
Sure.
I would encourage you to go with your gut, and hesitancy to me
Yeah.
says that your gut's telling you something, and I would follow that.
okay, so I know this is a little out of order, but should I have the petitioner come up and try to find another date to do?
Yeah,
Sure.
that's fine, Amanda.
Who is that?
Unless- Did we want to propose something
Well-
tentatively like we did for that other case? We have to check with the other 2 members if that works as well.
I guess the question would be, can the applicant or plaintiff, whatever the legal term, can they wait to the next meeting,
Yeah.
or is it something we need to address sooner? That's the question.
So who is the applicant for this? Okay, I don't know who I'm talking to. All right, yeah, just come up to the microphone. That way it's on record and everyone can hear you. Okay. So first of all, would it impact you if you waited to the next scheduled monthly meeting? Okay, the problem is we're down to 3 of our 5 board members tonight to make a decision. One of them lives right next door to this property.
Okay.
So am I understanding he's hesitant to
Yeah.
make a ruling on this because of what it could look like? So it only leaves two of us, and that's not enough to make a vote tonight. So either we can do a special meeting or we can table this to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Well, sure, that's what we're trying to find out. So, okay. Sure. All right, so
And then
Adam.
just-
Right, right.
That-
Yeah,
it's just the
we,
appearance-
I mean, it's gonna be very high quality. very-
No, yeah. and I'm
Yeah.
not concerned about anything that- The fact that I'm.
right next door.
next to one.
And we just want to make sure that all appearances, that there's no discrepancy
I
whatsoever.
think Dan owns the property next door, she's on here behind it.
He's a couple deep. Yeah.
He does, Dan.
Oh, Dan.
Dan property across the-
Oh, Lord. Now what are we
Across the
gonna
alley.
do?
We gotta get Rick here.
But then it's, if Dan recuses himself, then we're only down
You got
to,
three, so
then we're down to three. Okay, we're
we
down to
need
three.
Rick Here and you three have to.
Okay. So
Rick,
that's
I know too.
what
Rick's
happens in
on
a,
that list.
what happens in a small town when everybody lives so close together. So, Adam, how should we do this? If he wants a special meeting, we'll have to have you look at it and get with the three members that aren't affected and come up with a meeting date?
And then Alex, refresh my memory. Do we have to select a day and time right now so that we don't have to do republishing?
Yes.
So then let's take a look here.
And to make this even a little more difficult, I'm not going to be available next week unless I do it Zoom. Then I think I can do it as long as I'm on camera, correct? And make a vote? Okay. So if you choose it next week, I'm on Zoom. If not, I'm in person.
Okay, how about Thursday, December 7th at 6:30?
All right. Okay, let me write this down.
that-
December 7th at 6:30. This is
You'll make it, but I don't think that matters.
right. If you're going to
Right.
recuse yourself, it won't matter that you're here.
I'm
Um,
tentative that night if it's
How does
not-
that look for you, Earl?
Fine.
All right. The wild card is we can go ahead and get that set and inform. Sorry, my brain is just fried. It's
Yeah,
hard to-
I can tell Rick, and
And Rick, and
worst case scenario, if it doesn't work for him, then what?
Then we
So
just-
if,
Mm.
a couple of options. Worst case is doesn't work and the BZA doesn't convene on that continued date, the Thursday, the 7th, I think is what you said.
Mhm.
And in that case, then that breaks the chain of the open public meetings when we're talking about dates. And so new notice would need to go out, complying with the statute for timeframes and the town's rules. So was it 10 days, Adam, and publishing it? A little bit, still not so great, but a little bit better, avoiding the publication, is that at least three of the BZA come together on Thursday, the 7th, if even for 5 minutes, to open the meeting, set a new date that Rick and everybody can be there, close the meeting, and then we show back up at the alternative date. But that's what would happen from an open door law perspective, if the 7th doesn't work.
All right. The other thing we can do here is I want to get this meeting moving, obviously. Can you call Rick?
to say, can Rick be accessed by?
Yeah. I've got his number here. Do you have his number?
The answer is his phone. Just tell him to jump on Zoom.
Yeah.
That would work.
Take care of this real quick.
And then we can rearrange this and put that case first, maybe.
If he can jump on.
Probably.
If not, we can.
I know.
Well, what I was suggesting is why don't we put that on hold just for now. We're going to go through the first item here in the interest of time. And after that's done, then we can hopefully confirm that it'll be December 7th. So I'm just sit there one item.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much for your understanding. Okay, so let's go back then to the first item of new case on the agenda, and that's best if I put my glasses on. 625 West Broadway Street. So Adam, if you can do our presentation, please.
Right. So this case before you tonight involves a case at 625 West Broadway. That's at the northwest corner of Broadway Street and Garden Street / Vitality Drive. And the petitioner is attorney Ray Basile on behalf of the property owner BP 32 Oil LLC. The zoning on this property is commercial neighborhood, and it is within the corridor overlay in the zoning ordinance. And the use of the property today is it's under construction, future commercial, it'll be a gas station. The request here tonight is the owner of the BP gas station would like to install a sign with LED pricing and a polycarbonate box, which are both prohibited in the zoning ordinance. And therefore, the request here tonight is for development standards variances. So here is the site plan. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with the area, driving by it. The signing question is here at the corner of Garden and Broadway. And here's a rendering of what the petitioner is looking to accomplish. In terms of the height of the sign, it would still be 12 feet. And there would be a monument base with some landscaping, all in keeping with the ordinance. And then this is how the sign would appear at night. And I'll get into this in a bit. An earlier exhibit was prepared by the sign company, I think this summer, when they were originally looking to do a sign. And this particular sign does meet the ordinance that was originally contemplated. And you can see how it would be illuminated at night. It has a routed out copy for the box sign. And then it has illuminated letters on a roller system. And this is a pretty good example of one, a sign that is very similar to our ordinance. This happens to be in Carmel, but just so you can get a sense of what that would look like. So I had already mentioned the two variances that they're looking for. Again, prohibiting the electronic LED pricing. And then the ordinance reads for illumination. And for this portion of it, we're talking about the part with the BP logo on it. The zoning ordinance states external or indirect illumination is permitted. Pan channel individual letters, individually illuminated or with backlighting is permitted, and then routed out vinyl lettering with metal face is acceptable. And then here's the portion, box signs with only polycarbonate or acrylic panels and or internally illuminated are not permitted. So what we have allowed in the past, for example, the scooter sign that's nearby, it is I think it does have an acrylic or a polycarbonate face, but it's not a true box. It's not a square or rectangle. It has some shape to it. So in case that question comes up. In terms of remonstrance to these variances, all the public notice requirements have been met. That included a sign posting, newspaper publication in the Greenfield Reporter, as well as a mailing to nearby property owners. And we're not aware of any remonstrance at this time. So in terms of the decision criteria for the variance, of course, you're asked to base your decision on Indiana code. And I've issued my staff opinion here in yellow, of which you are free to adopt or go in a different direction. But as you know, there's 3 different tests for a development standards variance. So the first one deals with general welfare, that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. My take is probably no issues with that, but setting a precedent for signage not in keeping with the ordinance at a brand new gas station could lead to further requests to deviate from the ordinance and could cause proliferation of unsightly signage along a prominent corridor in town. The second one is the adjacent property test, that the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Again, my assessment would be probably not an issue there. No residential neighborhoods would be impacted. But it's really, in my professional opinion, this last one that poses the greatest challenge. One is its practical difficulty, that the strict application of the terms of this chapter will result in a practical difficulty in the use of the property. And I don't believe that one has been met. As it was shown earlier in the presentation, a sign company could design the signage based on the town's standards in the adopted ordinance. In fact, the same sign company did originally design signage for this project that met the ordinance. And the town's prohibition for electronic LED signs, it's not unheard of. It is similar to the city of Carmel's ordinance. Additionally, despite what was written in the statement of intent, it should be known that the gas station attendant would be able to change the roller pricing on the sign from inside of the building via computer. And the sign as originally proposed would still be fully illuminated at night, even with routed out copy. Also wanted to note that the town understands the importance of signage, which is why the height was actually increased from 8 feet to 12 feet in 2020. And then the last item to mention is that per the zoning ordinance, one of the reasons for the sign standards in the ordinance in the first place is to, quote, maintain and enhance the aesthetic environment of the town, end quote. So with that, based on that information and my assessment, my recommendation would be to deny the request and to comply with the adopted zoning ordinance. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to address those. And additionally, the applicant's attorney is here as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Adam. All right, do we have any questions about the presentation to Adam from the board? I've got one. Is obviously what they're asking for tonight is a deviation from what was originally shown on the plans when they were.
Well, on the site plan, it doesn't get into that much detail. The site plan just said that it would be a 12-foot tall sign, and they have 2 signs. One is on the north side, and then one is right at the corner. This sign on the north side, I'm told they still want to utilize, and that they plan on meeting the ordinance in full, presumably, for whatever type of signage, whatever description they want to have there. It's this one at the corner is where they're looking to do the LED and the the polycarbonate box.
Okay.
And then the history on this is just really quickly, if I remember correctly, the sign company had asked me, as is very typical, they wanted to know what now that we're working on the signage portion of the project, what does your ordinance say?
Right.
And so I provided that to them. They came back with this design and I said, yep, believe that would meet the ordinance, no issues. And then I think the sign company conferred with the client, the owner, and the client said,
Okay.
we really feel that we need to have these other two items. Thus the reason for the ordinance or for the variance.
Okay. All right. All right. Thanks for the background. That definitely helps. All right. Do any of you guys have any questions for Adam on this? Okay. All right. The way we typically do this is we will have time for the petitioner to come up and speak if there's any additional information they want to add to the case. When you come up, just say and spell your name and how you represent this case. So do we have anybody here tonight? All right, please come on up.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is John Cross. I'm an attorney for the petitioner. My name is spelled JOHNCROSS. My address is 13 North State Street, Suite 241, Greenfield, Indiana. And I'm here with representatives from both the gas station and the manufacturer sign side as well. So any questions specifically towards them, we have representatives who can address those for you. So as stated by Adam, the property is under construction. The use will be one for a gas station and a convenience store. The gas station will provide fueling pumps for both recreational vehicles as well as diesel semi-trucks. As stated, the specific variance sought is to install a polycarbonate full cutout and internally illuminated electronic sign, as stated, that would be on the southeast portion of the property for the purpose of advertising the gasoline and diesel prices at the gas station. To go over the criteria that must be met, the first one is to prove how the approval of these variances will not be injurious to the public welfare or the community. Here, if we can look at Exhibit 1, which is the sign that we've already seen today, just to go again over what was mentioned. Here, ordinance requires signs cannot be more than 12 feet. Here we see that the maximum height here as proposed is 90 inches, so it's just under 8 feet tall. It would be 8 feet wide, 96 inches. The actual sign portion, which is the top half, would be the 4 feet by 8 feet. The foundation is compliant with code, so there is no issues with there. So this is the current rendering that is acceptable and being proposed that would be installed if this is going to be approved. The reason for this signage is, yes, originally, as stated by Adam, there was a mock-up drawn that was compliant with ordinances, but again, the BP is pushing for the proposed sign here, and not just for internal purposes, but also for just general welfare purposes, safety concerns as well. Not only that, but there are other gas stations that have the same type of signs that have the LED lighting with respect to the price numbers on them. So the sign here wouldn't be uncharacteristic with other gas stations in the area. We know that the prohibition on such signage has been a recent amendment to the Fortville's ordinances. So this would not be uncharacteristic, while of course it is not compliant with the current code, but it wouldn't be uncharacteristic with other gas station signage in the area. The real reason for the sign and the LED lighting and the backlit lighting is to increase the visibility. Again, a primary customer for this gas station will be diesel trucks. The speed limit in the area is around 45 miles per hour. Having LED lighting on the pricing is visible from further away. Truck drivers seeing that will then have more time to make a decision of whether or not to turn in. They will have more time to brake, as opposed to if they have less time to see that, if it's not LED, then they would have less time. They would have faster, harder turning in. So there are safety concerns with respect to travel in the area that we do feel that the LED siding does address and provides a benefit to the area that does not provide an injurious effect, but actually has safety measures provided that will provide good, adequate measures to this area specifically. So I could understand the concern more if we were talking about more local streets, 35 miles per hour or lower, but that's not the case at the location of the gas station. Again, trucks can drive 45 miles is the posted speed limit. So whether or not they go faster or not, but again, this would give them more time to stop and turn into the area. The other safety concern for the LED would be with respect to employees changing them. The alternative sign that was proposed that was based off a Carmel sign, to my understanding, included roller pricing where it's kind of an index where the numbers would be rotated and they'd be flipped through. So that would be manually done inside. Here, our sign engineers have looked into those and do not believe that it's feasible because they must meet a specific square footage for the sign. And in order to meet that, those rolling price numbers are a specific size as well, and they will not fit inside of the sign that would have to go onto the property. So they have already looked at that and determined that those cannot be used here, which would mean if the LED would not be permitted, they would have to do the manual changing of the numbers, which in their opinion does not look as nice. Those numbers can fall. It requires employees to go out manually and change them. If it's a higher sign, clearly that uses ladders, and enough gas stations out there in operations, they have seen employees fall. And so that's a concern as well. And not only a concern for the employee's safety, but if an employee has to go out and change prices that could change daily, could change weekly, that takes the manpower, the services out from inside the store for the customers that are hoping to get in and get out with their conveniences. So here we're not discussing a large digital sign, not a big advertising billboard. The LED on this sign, there will be no advertising on it whatsoever. I know some gas stations do have an ability to provide some advertising. That's not the case here. The only LED aspect of it are just the pricing numbers that are shown on it. So there's no evidence to support any claim that the sign of the size or the location or the proposed appearance here would have any sort of negative impact on the general welfare. And in fact, would actually address some safety concerns as stated. The use and the value of the area adjacent to property will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Here, as stated by Adam, the location of the gas station is around State Road 36 and Garden Street. The surrounding uses in that area, there's a fire station, self-storage units, a computer repair shop, granite countertop store, and other vacant commercially zoned ground. The nearest residential properties are to the north of the property. Those are separated by a railroad, by Garden Street as well, and tree lines. So here there's a lot of distance between those residential properties and where the sign would be on the southeast portion of the road. And so given the size of the sign here, again, under 8 feet, there's not going to be little to any visibility from the residential properties. So here, there's not going to be any sort of negative impact that would be impacted on the surrounding properties. And again, we are just talking about here, just the pricing numbers that would be LEDs. So we're not going to see flashing lights, continuously changing, streaming types of advertisements that you could see on such LED lights, which I think is a purpose and a reason why some of these LED banning ordinances go into effect. So the strict application here of the ordinance would result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. Again, the request is made because enforcement of the 2 sign restrictions will cause serious practical difficulties for their use. Again, the purpose of the sign is to be visible. If it's not LED, it is less visible. I've already gone over the concerns of the advantages of it being visible with regards to the diesel truck drivers, the speed limit on the road. So we have safety concerns that we are concerned about for providing LED purposes. And also because the operation of non-electronic signs is more expensive. There is upfront cost to these LED signs, but long-term, the non-electric signs is more expensive. Again, that goes into the employee manpower that goes into taking them and the risks involved, takes them away from running the store. And if the numbers, there's cost there, materials, if they break, then those fall down. And of course, there's aesthetic concerns there as well versus the LED numbers that are always there and can easily and safely be changed by the employees. So when we look at it, the only real benefit of what would be done under the code ordinances, which would be a pierce cut, painted aluminum push through option that would be allowed, is that version of a sign would have a longer lifespan, I believe 15 to 20 years. a LED sign is around the approximately 10 years, but that's not a concern to the petitioners. There could be rebranding or just upgrading in that time period. So that benefit doesn't outweigh the value that's added by the LED material in polycarbonate illuminated sign here. So with that said, I think that maybe somebody wanted to give more specifics about the roller pricing if I didn't hit on it enough, or
Let me just.
Yeah.
And please say and spell your name and how you represent the case.
I'm Doug Westland with Westland Concepts, the sign manufacturer. It's my understanding you thought that those were rollers already. Through the evolution of presenting this to the customer to what fits to actually going to the roller manufacturer. And then going with BP, who says you have to meet our restrictions also. So it's not just the gentleman here, it's BP branding has certain restrictions. The rollers are a certain size and they're not able to make them as small as we were showing in the original exhibit. So that got misunderstood that they're placards, terminology in the sign world is very, unfortunately, not very consistent sometimes. So we were saying placards and he was understanding them probably to be rollers, the roller signs that he showed in that image. But that manufacturer doesn't make them small enough to get them on your 32 square foot restriction and get the information on there we need. So we'd probably be able to get maybe one pricer on there, but it would make the sign, we couldn't do the BP anymore because they're wider and it'd be much deeper. They're a minimum of 24 inches deep. If you look at that, I don't know if there's a good side view. That's the smallest we can get on the placards, and their sign's very narrow and very wide. And I can't speak to the Carmel sign ordinance if it's 32 square feet or if they allow a wider, bigger sign. So I can't speak to that. I know we originally looked at it, we might have been able to get one price, but it really made the sign look ugly. I'm just gonna be honest with you. It just didn't fit well. It was a weird perspective. It was not gonna look nice in the city. So we showed the placards because that's what they had asked for, a non-digital as an option. As he has spoke, though, placards can be very dangerous to change, and we don't like using them. No one really likes using them. You guys have seen price placards on gas station signs. They aren't always perfectly lined up. They slide off, they move, people are changing them constantly. It's a lot of work. So really, it's not the rollers that we're proposing that he had presented that's changeable from it. It is hand change placards that we're trying to not do. And that's why we'd really like to do the LEDs, similar to the Speedway sign or something like that. Nothing different than you guys have in your city. I do understand you guys don't want EMCs and message centers and flashing signs. And I agree with you. And I appreciate you not wanting your city to have those because I'm a sign guy and I don't like them either, to be honest with you. So I just want to clarify the rollers and why that's not there versus the placards, to clear up that misunderstanding. So if you have any questions for me, please let me know. We'll be doing the ones building the whole thing at the end of the day. So.
All right. Thank you. You have any more to add?
Yes, I just
Okay.
Close with, of course, approving this variance, it doesn't set any precedent for future cases. Each variance case would be case by case, fact dependent. I think here a big factor is the location of the gas station, given the speed limit, given the intent to cater to diesel trucks. So I don't think that approving this would set any sort of precedent down the road. And again, we're talking about a specific use for a gas station. The gas station sign here that's being proposed, the limited LED aspect of it is just the numbers. Typically, any other person who's a non-gas station is likely going to want a different type of LED sign that's not similar to this. Gas station signs are kind of one and the same for what they advertise, unless they do more than what is being shown here. So I don't think there's any fear that if a limited variance is granted here for this sort of LED purpose, that would set any precedent down the road for other cases to be sought. So with that would be our welcome any questions that you may have.
Okay. Does anybody here on the board have a question?
Yeah, I do real quick. Because we mentioned safety at the outset. And I think the first topic that you brought up was the concern that there'd be trucks turning in and out of the facility. How many diesel fueling stations does this station have compared to passenger vehicle?
So here's our site plan. So there's two different fueling stations. Adam's kind of highlighting where the diesel stations are. There are 2 islands there. And then there are 5 islands on the south side under the canopy for the regular vehicles.
Okay. So from a volume perspective, what is the anticipated trips in and out of the gas station from passenger car versus heavy vehicle? If that's a primary function and primary concern.
Come on up and say and spell your name for the record, please.
Brian Dyke, it's BRIANDYKE.
And how do you represent the case?
I don't work for BP, but I work for the company that facilitates BP with the gas station owner.
Okay, thank you.
This will be, I mean, typically it's hard to say exact volumes on in and out. But as far as like this is concerned, it will be a higher volume diesel site because of having the separate Kennedy catering to diesel trucks, because along that stretch, there's not really another option for that. And that's why this was a very important aspect of that. So we're looking at probably in the range of 7-to-1 passenger vehicle to large diesel truck. Where in normal instances, like if you go down to Pendleton or the other sites within Fortville, you're probably looking at more like 20-to-1 if they even do have a diesel island that will support large trucks. So
Okay. I just recall there was a traffic impact study done for this site, and my memory of it is that this was not going to be yes, there are pumps, but that it's nowhere near a what I would consider, like a truck stop or something that's got heavy vehicle. Because I don't think this, right, and I don't think this facility is even on the national truck network. So I don't know that the percentage of heavy vehicles on the corridor is particularly high. But so just wanted to touch on that if that's a primary concern and driver for safety. I think we just need to clarify that.
Sure. And this would be the only location between there heading west until you hit Pendleton Pike that would offer the diesel services.
Sure. Sure.
Okay. All right. Do you have any other questions?
Oh, I think that was answered with the sign placard.
Yeah. Okay, have a seat, please, and we might have you come back up for some clarifications. We have time now in the agenda for public response, and this is for or against. Do I have anybody in the, okay, I see no one. Also have time for government officials to weigh in. I got an I'm good, so that means a pass on that. So I have a couple of questions directed back to Adam. With all of the new road construction, speed limit changes, all of that, what is the speed limit at that point? And will it change? Because I know in town used to be 40 and now it's 30. So what impact, if any, does that have on that stretch?
There are no plans to change the speed limit over there.
And do we know
Right now.
currently what it is?
Let's see. I believe it's 40.
That's what I'm
And then
remembering as well.
west of Scooters is where it
changes.
increased to 55.
Okay. My second question is this monument sign the only signage that this gas station is going to have?
No, the answer is no.
Okay.
They're planning on having a second sign over here on the north side.
And do we know
But
anything about
presumably
it?
I guess there's no gas station pricing on there. I'm not 100% sure. what
Okay,
they
that was
put
my
on that, but-
question. Is this monument sign that's under consideration tonight the only sign that has their pricing on it?
That's my understanding. You might want to confirm with them
Okay.
as to what they're.
I'll call you up here in a minute. All right, let me look at my notes. Okay. All right, I'm not sure who wants to address that. Okay, I don't know who wants to address that question if they'll come back up.
So we believe that by ordinance, there's only one ground sign permitted. So this is the one that we're going for. There's been some recent conversations with planning on the second sign. The proposed second sign would meet code ordinances. So that one would not be, out of the ordinary, wouldn't require any variances. And I believe it would have the pricing on it as well. So it would advertise it on the north end as well.
Okay. And it's not a monument sign, it would be a taller sign? I guess I'm just trying to get a visual.
I'm not sure if there are any proposed renderings of it yet. There are not. I mean,
But at this time, you feel like it meets the city's ordinance so that it probably won't come back to variance stage? Or do we even know? Is that a guess?
my understanding is the variance would possibly be needed for a second ground sign on the property. But that would be the only variance that would be needed. It wouldn't be an attempt to get a second LED sign out of it. The developmental standards with respect to the sign would be met. So no variance is sought except if a variance for a second ground sign would be needed.
To that point,
Yeah, go ahead, Nathan, please.
is that corridor, is that off the overlay, and will that be an LED sign, the second sign?
No,
So we're gonna have people walking out and changing the second sign, but we're not gonna have them changing the first sign?
no price.
Okay,
Okay, so the second sign does not have pricing. Okay, that's what I'm trying to, yeah, that's what I was exactly where I was trying to wrap my head around.
Quick question on
Hold
the
on.
sign standard. You mentioned that the roller would make it difficult, but you mentioned that there are also specific specification standards that BP has. Is the roller confined by BP standards? Is that the issue, or is it that they cannot shrink?
Or is it your signage company cannot?
BP standard, that's,
The roller is a specialized company who makes those,
Yeah.
and they don't make smaller
so that is.
rollers.
the-
They
okay.
just don't. To make those, the mechanics inside, that's pretty significant.
Yeah.
So they're pretty deep.
Yeah.
And they have to be a certain height that they can't make the mechanisms work. That's not a BP
Okay.
thing at all.
So that's just,
Yeah,
That is
there's
what it
only one
is.
or,
yeah,
I might be speaking, I know of one or two manufacturers in the entire country who make those. And when we reached out to them, they're like, we can't make them smaller than this and they have to be this deep.
Okay.
So.
Yep.
So
Just wanted to
I'm not gonna
verify
say we
that.
couldn't put one on there. But to get more than one price on that sign and meet your 32 square feet and it just doesn't make sense to try to make it happen. Does that make sense? So I don't want to speak out of line and say we can't do it at all, but it'd be one price point and the sign would get wide and BP would not accept it anymore also because of their logo would not be there. So it's a combination of multiple. So I don't want to say, hey, it couldn't be done and be a liar to you guys,
Mhm.
but we can't get multiple price points. We can't compete against a Speedway now and BP could come back and say, we don't like your deal at all, and we're gonna come back to you again in a month and say, let's try this again.
sure.
So does that make sense? But I want to be honest with
Yep.
you. Okay.
That makes perfect sense.
All right, thank you. Adam, I have a question for you. Our ordinances only allow for placards or roller type signs and no LED? I'm just verifying this.
Correct. No.
Okay,
And it doesn't speak to one way or the other of the roller or the placard.
okay.
Oh,
But they're not
presumably-
prohibited.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So we need a discussion here on the board.
We need to make a motion first.
Sure. Do I have okay, yeah, let's do that. Do I have a motion? Well, is there just the one on here? Yeah. Do I have a motion for or against? And with or without conditions?
I'll move to approve the variance for the LED sign.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so let's open this up for discussion here amongst ourselves. I am a little concerned as well as, we had something very similar not too long ago that came up about LEDs, and I know it wasn't apples to apples, but again, we have an ordinance for a reason. And we start allowing one person to have the LEDs and another one not, and there really isn't a practical, I know they say there's a practical difficulty, but I don't think it outweighs the need to allow the variance. That's my opinion. it's not like it's a truck stop that there is a lot, like you mentioned, Nathan, there's a lot of diesel trucks. 40 mile an hour isn't, they need to be slowing down way before that, before they hit the 40, because it's on the edge of town. And this is a very populated, very tight main road. As far as my opinion, that's why you hire employees to work and change signs. But that's my opinion. Do you all have any feedback?
Well, I don't remember, I think maybe it was 2 or 3 years ago, we allowed the American Legion that's across the street from residential homes to change their regular plastic-based
Yes.
signage to LED with advertisement on it that just couldn't be flashing. And it had to be, it couldn't be above a certain lumens or brightness, because the residential homes, this is off of the main drag. We've already got 2 gas stations with LEDs here in town that have homes around them.
I guess I'm not really opposed to the LED. I guess I'm opposed to is constantly changing our ordinance. So if this is something that we are going to start allowing, I think the ordinance needs to be reflective of that. Am I allowed to ask on a previous case, on the other one, I think it was on Hucks?
Mhm.
Am I allowed to not compare apples to apples, but the reason that one didn't go through was because of the LED component? Or was it the flashing where it was constantly changing?
That one for reference, what they were trying to do is they were trying to expand the area by which they'd have LED pricing on there.
So the
was
base
new.
or the
Yeah,
size of the sign
correct.
as well as.
Correct. Because they were grandfathered in and then they were expanding the size.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's right. So that was a pre-existing non-conforming sign. And so the law requires, if they change that, make it bigger or bright, which is what they were trying to do, the law actually cuts against, not our zoning code, but state law cuts against that and says, no, you need to bring it into compliance. So
I see.
quite a bit different
Yeah.
on the ask.
So I don't disagree with you that. I guess what I'm hearing tonight is that if we want to see something like rollers, the placard to me doesn't scream high quality necessarily.
I would agree on that. I wish we had another option
So
here.
if we are running up against this, maybe there is a question of if we're creating practical difficulties based on overall square footage that's allowed in the variance, then maybe that's what needs to be considered. Because what I'm hearing, the more we talked through this, is that they evaluated it and there are potential options, but in each one of those options, maybe BP throws it out and says no, or it changes the sign size to be something that's.
And then we have another problem because then now we have another variance because the signage would have to be large enough to accommodate those rollers. So then we have yet another.
So if we could require the variance needs to be that it has to be over 32 square feet. Would be I guess the question, and it would have to be approved by VP. The more we talked through this, I started thinking, okay, is this rising to the level of, is this practical difficulty because of the box the literal box that we were requiring them to fit in? I don't disagree with you that we should have something that, the ordinances that we have should be followed. We need to make sure, I guess, that they're operational. If we're running into these, and I don't know that this is a consistent issue, but if another gas station were to come in, and I think there's a couple potentially coming, we may run into this same situation down the road.
It's because why would they not go after the same variance? Because they are now at a disadvantage of the other one. Assuming Speedways is grandfathered in, is that correct? Yes.
Yes.
So they're already at a oh, boy, this is a
Remember,
tough one.
It's just up the road, right? That we approved through the BZA a couple months ago.
Which
at
one
Ohio
was
State,
that?
right here at
Ohio.
Ohio and.
Oh, yeah, yes, that gas station. Yeah, should it
So they
go
will
through.
likely,
Oh,
where if we require rollers or a non-LED situation, do we run into the square footage issue again? Maybe.
do you recall when this ordinance was created, the thought process why LEDs were not going to be allowed?
Well, because different signboards that are put up, as I'm sure you've seen in other communities, especially for illuminated signs, one that has messaging and scrolling, and it can be very bright at night. And they can, if zoning ordinance safeguards aren't put in there, they can get pretty wild.
Sure.
And so rather than trying to address every kind of situation, the idea was to prohibit them altogether. Also, and again, there are two other components as well. Is first, don't forget on Main Street, at the time, and it still holds true today, for the Main Street and Broadway development standards, there were very tight standards on signage where they didn't even allow it internal illumination. It had to be externally illuminated by having a spotlight going downward on the sign. So if that was the community standard, to suddenly say, LED signboards are perfectly fine to do, it seemed like a very big jump from what was established in the downtown area for that. And then secondly, it's not unheard of to have these types of prohibitions, like I've mentioned. Carmel does. I'm sure there's other communities around the country that do that as well.
So I know you mentioned that Carmel has a similar type ordinance. How do they get away from the practical difficulty portion of it? I mean, do they use rollers or placards, or do we even know? I'm just.
Yeah, just in observing, I haven't seen any, I haven't noticed even any LED gas station signs in that municipality. They're all either, I think most are probably on the placards, and some of the newer ones are on rollers.
Okay.
Presumably because it's easier for the attendant to.
Right. Okay, so boy, this is this is a little difficult one. So Speedway is grandfathered in, unless they should choose to do anything with their sign and then modify that sign, then it comes back to here.
Correct.
The same with Huck's.
Correct.
I think what Alex was saying is even more restrictive because it's legal non-conforming. They have to bring the sign into compliance. They can't just request a variance. It would have to come into compliance, which would remove.
And replace with today's ordinances. Okay. Okay. We have, yeah.
Vote on it.
I'm pretty set on a decision. I don't know if you all still need time or questions. Okay, well, we have a motion and we have a second. I guess all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. So motion fails. Now they can choose to come back and try this again with more board members. Is that correct? Because we have to have a unanimous tonight.
So, Alex, from what you said earlier, it just means no actions taken, right?
That's right.
S-
Yeah, so my recommendation would be to, unless you want to, someone wants to make an amended motion, putting some sort of, I don't know, there hasn't been any discussion about commitments or things like that. I'm not sure that this petition would warrant that. Perhaps table the matter to the next meeting, even the special meeting that you scheduled earlier this evening, to run the question by the full panel of the board.
So if we table this and put it on the special meeting and we have more members, then we don't necessarily need a unanimous decision. Is that correct?
That's correct. Simple majority of the full membership of the board. So 3 votes, one way or the other.
Okay. All right. Do I need to make a motion to, well, I'm not even
Yes.
sure.
Procedurally, our practice is to make a motion second for tabling or continuing the matter to the next meeting.
Okay.
Or do we want to, were you able to get a hold of Rick?
Oh, gee. Help, what do we do?
Okay.
Do what? Well, he could do Zoom, couldn't he?
You could jump on Zoom. I was just,
I'm going to have to be on Zoom and I won't even tell you my complicated life at the moment, but I'll be on Zoom. So you're texting him to see if he can jump on Zoom on the 7th? Okay.
Yep.
I can figure that out somehow. And we know that Dan could possibly be back too. So, yeah. So should we just go ahead and look for, should I wait to hear a response back from this, or can we go ahead and make a motion to add this to the special meeting?
is there, I guess, with no motion carried? Do we
Well,
ask the petitioner?
Okay, I think here's what I think
Required.
you can do. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, but to make it simple, you can say that we just, for now, table it to the next meeting, which would be towards the end of December. And then later in this meeting, if you hear back from Rick,
Okay.
you can bump that you can officially schedule that second. Okay.
All right. So
Does
I'm
that make
looking
sense?
for a motion to table this to the next meeting.
I will make a motion to table variance 2023 625 West Broadway Street BP signage variances to the December BZA meeting.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
And just for clarification, that's the regular December meeting.
That is correct.
Okay.
That's fine. We've had so many anomalies tonight. We've not run across before. So, at this point, can the petitioner just either wait to hear, or we'll just inform them if that meeting should change?
Well, if it should change, that determination would have to be made by the end of the meeting tonight. So
Yeah.
we'll wait
Okay.
to hear back.
So they can wait or be informed that,
We can
okay,
Either inform you or relax.
But that's not a special meeting.
Right.
right now it's tabled till the December meeting, but could,
But we could bump it up for
We
you.
can
it
bump
could,
If we can get a hold of Rick Jacobs.
it's,
If the petitioner needs it bumped up,
Right.
if this isn't a time sensitive issue and give or take 30 days isn't a matter, then
So
I
Rick
think
can-
I mean, the other way you could do it, whether it's for
I
this or the
I
other.
can be available via Zoom.
Yeah, I mean,
I think.
I would look at it this way. My advice would be
Yes,
that
please.
if we can be reasonable and we're able to get a hold of Rick at this meeting and we're able to schedule a special meeting to cover this item and the other one, that'd probably be a good thing to do. However,
yes.
it's really a courtesy to do that. And we may not have that courtesy if we can't get a hold of him. So at a minimum, it would be at the next meeting in December. Does that make sense? That'd be my.
Okay,
and
okay, a lot of moving parts
and
there.
also, I mean, I can't see the public, but if petitioner and
Please
you know,
speak
they've
up, I
got
can't
lawyers and
hardly hear you,
consultants.
Alex.
sorry, if the petitioner wants to leave, I mean, the requirements, the board makes the decision in the public meeting before it closes about special meeting or not. And so Adam, if you wanted to give the petitioner the heads up, if it turns out that it'd be the December 7th, that's fine. There's no requirement that petitioner needs to be in the room when the board takes that action.
All right, thank you. That's what I was getting at. So you're free to leave or you're free to stay either way. Okay.
Asking which cases.
Tell him to be determined. Yes. Yes. All right. Thank you. All right, let's move. Where's my agenda here? Oh, well. So the second case up tonight is variance 13/2023 at 1837 West 900 North, the Alexander Pole Barn garage variance. Adam, can you give us that presentation?
Sure. Okay, so for this last case here tonight, this is involves a property 1837 West 900 North, and the owners and petitioners on this are Eddie and Jodi Alexander. The zoning on the property is residential 3.5, and the property is being used as a single family estate or rural residential type of property. So the request from the Alexanders, they would like to expand an existing metal pole barn or garage on the property. And pole barns and metal buildings are no longer permitted in the residential 3.5 zoning district as of January 2023. Therefore, the structure is a legal non-conforming use, and expansion of this use requires BZA approval. So the first item is they're technically seeking a use variance, which would be to allow expansion of a metal pole barn on a property zoned R3.5. And then secondly, development standards variances pertaining to architectural design standards. First one is to allow for expansion of a gravel driveway. Second one is to allow a roof pitch of less than 6 to 12. And the third one is to allow a garage door with no garage door windows. So you can see here where the property is located, where the yellow star is. It's just north of the new Mount Vernon North neighborhood. And if you can see the aerial here, the red circle is the pole barn in question. If you take a look at this drone photo that was provided by the petitioner, there was another garage that was put on the property fairly recently. I think that was a separate BZA case from earlier this year. This request doesn't involve that one. We're just talking about this larger existing garage on the left-hand side of the screen. And then here's what it looks like. Of course, we can always refer back to these as needed. And if we take a look at the site plan here, it'd be about 75 feet away from the side property line. And no issues with the rear property line. If we take a look at the building elevations, you can see the lean-to that we're talking about that would be added on to this building. So in terms of remonstrance to the use variance of the metal building in R3.5 zoning, all the public hearing notice items have been completed, and we're not aware of any remonstrance. And then, if you recall, your decision criteria for variances, for use variances, is based on a different provision of state law specific to use variance, similar to the other ones that we went through, but they're a little bit different. And so my analysis is in yellow. So the first one is that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. I'd say yes, that's been met. Allowing expansion of a metal pole barn on this particular property would not impact those items. Note, the property functions as a rural residential property in which a metal pole barn is allowed if zoned properly. However, the zoning happens to be R3.5. So the applicant could seek a rezone, but the use variance is quicker and cheaper in this particular case. Secondly, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. I believe, yes, that's been met. There's no reason to believe that expansion of an existing metal pole barn on this rural estate property would diminish adjacent property values. Third item is the need for the variance arises from some condition peculiar to the property involved. I'd say, yes, that's been met. As mentioned, the zoning is a mismatch with the use of the property. And then item number 4 is the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which the variance is sought. I'd say, yes, that's been met. The modest expansion of an existing structure for additional storage is practical and reasonable, and prohibiting expansion of the structure in which no complaints have been received would be an unnecessary hardship. And then lastly, the approval does not interfere substantially with the comprehensive plan adopted. I'd say, yes, that's been met. The 2016 comprehensive plan map shows this property as residential and its use is consistent with this designation. So based on that analysis, my recommendation would be that you approve the request. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to address those, and the applicant is here as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Does the board have any questions for Adam at this time?
Nope.
Okay. I'm assuming the applicant is here. Do you have anything you would like to come up and add? Okay, so he's going to defer to Adam's presentation. All right. Let's see here. Public response. Anybody here for or against that wants to like to speak? Okay. And government officials. Got a shaking of the head. No, got to do all this according to the books here. Do we have any questions or clarifications from Adam at this point? All right, well, since we have 2 different ballots here, let's go with either one. I just need a motion for, let's take the gravel drive, roof pitch, and garage door windows. I need a motion for, against, with or without conditions.
I will make a motion to approve variance 14 for gravel driveway, roof pitch, and garage door windows on the metal pole barn addition.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, same for the next one, which is the expansion of a metal pole barn garage.
I'll make a motion to approve variance 14 to allow the expansion of metal pole barn garage at 1837 West, 900 North.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Congratulations, you have all of your wishes come true. Okay,
Should have started with that one.
I know, that one was an easy one.
Start us with the positive one.
Okay, so we are, where did we land on this
We need to.
third one? We've got to,
Rick said he will try to be here or do soon.
okay,
He said it'll probably have to be soon. I hope you as well.
yes,
So
okay. All right,
that's what we have for Thursday.
so that is Thursday, December the 7th. What date was that? Thursday?
6:30.
Okay, so because we've postponed it, now we've got to go back and and set a special meeting?
Amend that motion.
Amend the postponed meeting to reflect a special meeting. So do I have a, right?
Yep.
Okay, so do I have a motion for that, please? I
We,
would say
yeah.
yes. Well, I would think that they were anxious to get this moving, so I'm going to say yes. And
I will make a motion to continue variance 12 and variance 14 to a special session, special meeting on Thursday, December 7th at 6:30 PM.
do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. So let's see, what's the last thing? We have a little bit of housekeeping paperwork here on the one and only that passed and was finalized tonight. And then all I'm looking for is a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. See you all at the special meeting.
Good job, everybody. This was
Thank you all.
procedurally
Thank
a
you.
complicated one tonight. So
Yeah.
see you next week.
Yeah, thanks, Alex.
Take care. Bye-bye.
You can't commit. Oh, thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.